Good morning and happy Saturday. How's everybody doing today? Hope everybody's doing well. I am Coach Ray. Thank you for joining me for today's live stick mobility class. So for today's class, we are going to need one long, one short stick. So today's is going to be kind of more of a recovery day. We're just going to kind of go through the full body. So we're going to go from the neck down to the feet. We're going to do a few strength drills. We're going to get the upper back involved. Work on a little bit of extension, work on a little bit of core, and one hip drill only. So we're just gonna, again, kind of go through some recovery-based movements. So for the cool down, we are just gonna go through getting in a lot of rotations. I'm sure anybody's taking my class. Those like to do rotations a lot. So we're gonna get in a lot of rotations and different drills like that. All right, so is everybody ready to get started? Hope so. Let's do it. So I wanna start from the head and go downwards. So we are going to work on the neck and traps first. So I have my short stick here, and I'm going to kind of turn to the side so you can actually see where my arms are. So I'm going to have both hands at roughly about chest height, and I want both arms to be extended. Now I'm going to take a horse stance. So I'm going to take a stance wider than shoulder width. Feet are pointed forward. What I'm going to do from here, stick is slightly angled in towards me. Having my hands at shoulder height, I want to lightly drive the stick into the floor about 20%, and I want to make sure I'm up nice and tall. What I'm going to do from here is I'm going to pull my chin back, and then I'm going to tilt my left ear towards my left shoulder. So I'm getting flexion of the neck, lateral flexion. Going to come up, back to neutral. Then I'm going to tilt to the right. And as I do that, I'm reflexively pushing that left hand down harder. Back up to neutral, tilt to the left. Breathe. Back to neutral, tilt to the right. Good. Back to neutral, keep pulling that chin back. We're gonna rotate to the right. I'm going to create an arc, so I'm going to come up with my chin, over to rotating to the left, then back to center. I was going to repeat that 2 more times. Rotate your head to the right, up, over, back to center. 1 more time. Rotate to the right, up, over, back to center. Now switch directions. So rotate to the left, chin up, to the right, back to center. 2 more. Rotate, over. Good. Last one. Up, over, back to center. Excellent. Now we're going to work with some rotations. So we're actually going to go with the split stance. And again, we still have the short stick here. So I want my right foot forward. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the stick on the outside of my front foot here. Now that back leg, I'm on the ball and tilt to that back foot here. Hip is pointed forward. I want to make sure I squeeze that glute and tuck that pelvis a little bit. We're going to make sure we maintain a good stable position. I'm going to load that front leg here. I'm going to have my left hand stacked up top, right hand is under. What we're going to do from here, I'm going to lightly drive the stick into the floor, and then I'm going to rotate both hands, going to the right. Good. Back to center. We're going to rotate to the right again. Squeeze that left glute. Back to center. Rotate to the right again. Last one. Keep that right knee over the center toe. Back to center. And ease off. We're going to switch sides. So I'm going to go from the side here, so you can get a visual. So stick is on the outside of the left foot, pointed back behind the heel. Now my right hand's on top here. And I'm going to do that same thing. Squeeze that right glute. Keep that pelvis tucked, shift weight forward on that front leg, drive the stick down, rotate to the left, back to center. Good. Let's go 2 more. Rotate to the left. Good. Back to center. One more time. Rotate to the left. Back to center. And ease off. Good. So now we're going to go with rotating and lateral flexing of the spine. I'm going to take the stick, place it behind my mid-back. I want it at the crux of my elbows here. So we do want to make sure we keep control of the rib cage as we go through this. So take a horse stance, feet out a little wider than shoulder width. So we're going to start with rotating side to side. The lower body stays stationary, always keeping the hips square. So I'm going to rotate to the left. I'm going to drive my right hand going across. As I do that, I want to drive that left hip forward. Come back to center. Now I'm going to rotate to the right, driving my right hip forward. Back to center. Rotate to the left. Excellent. Rotate to the right. Drive the right hip forward. Rotate to the left. Excellent. One more time each way. Rotate to the right. Good. Rotate to the left. Good. Now we're going to go with lateral flexion. So keeping the hands on the stomach here. We're going to laterally flex to the left. And what I want to do is I want to get as much tilting as I can in the spine. Back up. Other side. Breathe. Back up. Tilt to the left. You want to try to see if you can get the stick as vertical as you can here. Now to the right. Good. Each way one more time. Left. And right. Good. Back to center and ease off. Excellent. And now we're going to go with pelvic tilts. We're going to start anterior, posterior. We're going to move on to lateral, and then we're going to get into pelvic circles. So, I'm turning to the side here. You want to make sure that the bottom of the stick is angled in towards you so you can create some tension. Make sure you're grabbing the ground with your toes here. So, squat down a little bit. Make sure your pelvis is stacked under your spine. You don't want to be here. You don't want to be here either. So, up nice and tall. Keep control of the rib cage. So bring that rib cage down a little bit so you got some tension there. Now I'm going to drive the stick into the floor about 20% tension. And I'm going to do a posterior tilt. So I'm going to squeeze my glutes, tuck my pelvis posteriorly, and drive my knees away from one another. Good. Now I'm going to do anterior tilt. Go the opposite way. Feel the lower back tissues tighten. Good. Posterior tilt. Squeeze those glutes, drive those knees out. Anterior tilt. Make sure you got a good grip on the ground with your toes. Posterior tilt. Just trying to only keep that movement at the pelvis. Anterior tilt. Good, one more time. Posterior tilt. Keep driving that stick down. And anterior tilt. Back to center. Now we're going to go in a lateral tilt. So keep a slight posterior tilt here. Then I'll turn forward. And now we're just going to go lateral hip bumps. So from here, I'm going to bump my right hip up. You should feel that right glute tighten. Now I'm going to bump my left heel up. The left hip up, sorry. Feel the left glute tighten. Bump the right hip up. Left hip. Keep driving that stick down. Right hip. And left hip. Good. Each way one more time. Right hip. And left hip. Back to center. Now we're going to go with the clock system. So we're going to go counterclockwise first. So start at 12. So posterior tilt. Then go to 9, 6, 3, and 12. Good. Let's go two more. 9, 6, 3, 12. One more time. 9, 6, 3, and 12. Switch directions. 3, 6, 9, 12. Good. 3, 6, 9, 12. Last one. 3, 6, 9, 12. Excellent. And ease off. Good. So now I'm going to pick up the long stick. We're going to get into some hinging patterns. So we are going to have the stick at the crooks of our elbows again. So this is mainly so we actually have to keep extension of the spine here. So I'm going to take the long stick, place it behind the crooks of my elbows. Now I can generate some tension by lightly driving my hands forward. That's going to get some extension in the spine. So I'm going to start on my left foot. I want to keep my left foot grounded. Right foot's going to hover. And I want to keep that stick as flat as I possibly can. So from here, I'm going to start to go into a single leg hinge. Driving that right heel back. Good. Hold. Back up. Hover that right foot still. Let's go on a hinge again. Try to hold some good stability here. Back up. One more time. Good. Hold. Back up. And ease off. Good. I'm going to kind of turn to the side here. Now we're going to switch over to the right foot. So your feet should be actively grabbing the ground as we go through this here. Step forward a little bit more. So same thing. Hover that left foot. Hinge. Up. Good. Let's go again. Hinge. Up. Excellent. Let's go one more time. Hinge. Up. Oh. And he's off. Good. And now we're just going to go with a little bit of internal external rotation, but we're only going to use one stick here, and we're going to be switching sides of the stick. So we're going to have both feet together, and so I'm going to work with external rotation first. So I'm going to have the stick about 2 inches outside of the outside of my foot here, and I have the bottom of the stick lined up with my toes. So if I turn to the side, it looks like this. So from here, have the hand at roughly about shoulder height, and I want to have the stick at about 1 o'clock, pointing at 1 o'clock here. Now I want to drive the stick down. I'm going to feel that tissue turn on the lateral side and the obliques. I'm going to bring my right hip up. Good. Bring it over to meet the stick, and I want to keep my knee in contact with the stick the entire time. Now what I'm going to do here, I'm going to externally rotate, so I'm going to rotate my foot away from the stick. Then I'm going to bring it back to touch the stick and externally rotate again, driving that knee into the stick here. Good. Foot back down, externally rotate. Good. Let's go 2 more. Externally rotate. Excellent. One more time. Externally rotate. Good. Back in. Come down nice and slow and ease off. You're going to feel that left glute working pretty hard here. That's what we're going for. Feet together. Stick is angled at 11 o'clock here. So same thing. Drive the stick down. Bring the left hip up. Bring it to meet the stick. Externally rotate. Drive that knee into the stick. Back down. Good. Externally rotate. Good. Back down. Externally rotate. There's 3. Good. 2 more. Externally rotate. Excellent. 4. Last one. Externally rotate. 5. And down. Nice and slow. And ease off. Now we're going to switch over into internal rotation. So instead of stick being out, we're going to have the stick right in line with the hip. So the objective here is now we're adducting, right? So we're trying to still push the knee into the stick to create that adductor tension as we internally rotate. The objective is the same, get the foot away from the stick as far as you can. So try to keep everything nice and rigid. Drive that stick down, bring the right hip up, around the outside of the stick, keep that knee in contact, internally rotate. Good, back in. Internally rotate here. Keep that ankle dorsiflexed, back in. Internally rotate. Back in. 2 more, internally rotate. Back in. 1 more time. Internally rotate. Back in. Down nice and slow. And ease off. Switch over to the other side. So it's important that we keep the hip in line with the knee. We don't want it actually crossing our center line here. So drive the stick down. Bring that knee on the outside or in the outside of the stick. Push the knee into the stick here. Internally rotate. Back in. Good. Rotate. Back in. Rotate. Good. Back in. Just go 2 more. Rotate. Back in. Last one. Rotate. Back in. Down nice and slow. And ease off. Let's take a second here. So now we're going to get into working on that upper back a little bit. So we're going to get into a hinge position and we're going to do stick hovers. We've done this before. So if you have a long and short stick, there's a way to actually do this. So you actually really don't need to elevate the short stick. Instead, they'll typically be at the same height. Now, where you're going to grab is you're going to grab roughly around shoulder height. So I'm going to stand. When a horse stands here, I want my feet to go pretty wide. And I'm going to show you from the side first so you can actually see the positioning and how far I'm hinging here. Also, pay attention to the angle of the torso. We don't want to lift the stick and find out the torso is coming up. So I'm going to grip roughly about shoulder height. If you have to grip lower, that's fine. So from here, I want to make sure I'm grabbing the ground with my feet and I'm going to drive my hips back. And I'm actually not creating tension yet, but I just want to feel the spine open up a little bit. Breathe. Good. Excellent. Come back up. Now we're going to generate tension. So our first move is to drive the sticks down into the floor. So drive the sticks down. Okay, about 40% tension. I'm going to slowly hinge back. I want to keep that tension the entire time. Good. I want to get to my end range here. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to lift the right stick first. So I'm going to drive that left stick into the ground a little harder, hover the right stick, just about an inch off the ground. Good, bring the stick back down, drive that right stick down, lift the left, bring the left stick back down, come up, and ease off. All right, so let's do that again. So I'm going to face forward here. So drive the sticks down, push, hinge back, reach those hands out. Let's hover that right stick first. We'll drive that left stick down harder, pick up the right stick, place it back down, drive that right stick into the floor, lift the left, place it back down. Good, come back up. Ease off. Let's go one more time here. So you should be feeling that upper back, those mid and lower traps working here. Last one. Drive the sticks down. Let's go in and hinge back. Get to that in range. Hover the right stick. Place it down. Hover the left. Place it back down. Come back up. And ease off. Excellent. We're going to place one stick down. I'm going to place down the long stick here. So now we're going to get into a little bit of pressing behind the head, in particular, pulling the stick apart and bringing it up. So kind of similar to doing dislocates. So for the width of the gripping, going to depend on you. I'm going to grip wider than shoulder width here. So when I'm gripping the stick, it's actually right about where my bit of my pelvic bone. So right below the waistline. So from here, gripping over double overhand grip, I'm going to take a wide stance, feet are facing forward, squeeze the glutes, keeping the arms straight. I'm going to pull the stick apart, about 30% tension, and then I'm going to bring it up overhead. Nice and slow. Keep it controlled. Keep control of that rib cage. Keep pulling that head back. Now I'm going to bring it down. Good. All the way to the upper traps if you can. Now compress, drive the stick up. Feel those scapula moving. Anterior tissues active. Come down, nice and slow. Keeping that compression on the stick. And ease off. I'm going to turn to the side here. We got a few more reps to go. Get down, pull the stick apart. Let's go about 50% tension. Bring the stick up overhead. Nice and slow. Pull that head back. Good. Stick comes down. Good. Compress. Bring the stick up. Come down. Nice and slow. And ease off. Let's get 2 more reps here. I'm going to turn back forward. So, same thing. Pull apart. Get some good tension, 50%. Bring it up nice and slow. Good. Bring it down. Compress the stick. Up. Down. Nice and slow. Breathe. Excellent. Ease off. Last one. Pull apart. Bring it up. Good. Pull it down. Keep pulling that stick apart. I want you to stop here behind the head. Now try to pull the stick back further behind you. Good. Bring it back in. Compress the stick. Push up. Down. And ease off. Whew. Excellent. Good. Okay. Let's take a second here. Now we're going to get into hip abduction. So we want to work on that glute. However, what's going to be a little different is we're going to be rotating the hip as we're going into the abduction there. So we're holding that isometric, but let's get that hip moving at that end range here. So I got the long stick here because I want to be able to grab up a little bit higher. So feet are together. Now as we do this, you don't want to be here. You want to make sure you're up nice and tall. So I'm going to have my hand roughly about face height. Distance of the stick is going to depend on you and your mobility, but you want to make sure that it's actually a bit of a challenge. So, arms out, drive the stick down about 50% tension. I'm going to start with my right foot. I'm going to hover my right foot, keeping that ankle dorsiflexed, bring it over to the stick, and push it against the stick. 50% tension here. Now I'm just gonna hold that for 8 seconds, or 8 minutes, or hours. Either one. All right, we're gonna slowly bring it back in and ease off that tension. Now this is where we're gonna start to rotate the hip. And remember, the movement's coming from the hip, not the foot. The foot is just a byproduct of that rotation. So drive that stick down, hover the right foot, bring it out to the stick, push with the outside. Now externally rotate the hip. You should be feeling that glute. Get really active here. Now we're driving the foot backwards into the stick here. Good. Rotate it back forward. Bring it back in nice and slow and ease off. Good. Let's go one more time here. Drive the stick down, hover the right foot, keep this left leg active. Drive that foot into the stick, hold, externally rotate. Good. Hold. Rotate it back forward, back in, and ease off. Let's switch sides. So I'll actually show from the side here. So we're gonna do that same thing. Stick is lined up with the midfoot. So hands about the same height. Drive that stick down, 50%. Hover the left foot, bring it to the left stick and push against the stick. You wanna keep your hips extended. Otherwise, you start to hinge, you start to change the relationship of the musculature. Bring it back in nice and slow and ease off. Good. We're gonna do that again. Now we're gonna add that rotation in. So drive the stick down into the floor. Make sure you hover that left foot. Right foot stays active. Bring the left foot to the stick. Push. Keep that ankle dorsiflex. Now externally rotate the hip. Pushing back into the stick. Good. Rotate it forward and back in. Good. Ease off. Whew. My right leg is starting to cramp here. All right. One more time. Drive the stick down. Over the left foot. Bring the foot to the stick. Push. Good. Rotate that foot outwards. Rotate the hip outwards, sorry. Wrong cue. Good. Rotate it back forward. And bring it back in nice and slow. And ease off. Good. All right. So now we're going to get into the core drill. What we're going to do is we're now going to just push the stick into the wall. However, we're going to rotate the hips a bit. So it's going to be a little interesting here. So I'm going to change angles of the camera. Right about there should be pretty good. So you can have the short stick or the long stick for this one. It doesn't particularly make a difference. So actually, just to make sure I stay in the camera, I'm going to go with the short stick. So I'm going to have my hips square, and I want to make sure that my arms are at 90 degrees. I'm not going to go with the stretched out position. I'm just going to come in at 90 degrees. I can typically generate more tension, or you should be able to. You have a little more leverage. So I'm going to have my feet a little wider than shoulder width. Toes are pointed forward. Now I want to keep my elbows in. That's extremely important here. Now, first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to drive the stick into the wall. So get into a good stance, drop the hips down, and we're going to push, drive the stick to your right, create that tension. The core is going to light up, it's particularly the obliques. Ease off, just trying to warm up the tissues. Now we're going to rotate the hips. I'm going to pivot that outside foot inwards. You're going to feel the obliques light up quite a bit here. We're going to drive the stick into the wall, 60% tension here. Elbows in, push. Now I'm going to rotate that left hip in. Now we're feeling the left obliques get involved here. Bring that left foot back down. Ease off. Whoo. Cramping here, cramping. All right, let's go again. Drive stick into the wall, 60%. Keep that right foot planted. Pivot that outer foot. Rotate those hips in. 3, 2, 1. Back down, and ease off. Excellent. Now I'm going to show you from a different, now we're going to switch sides. So I'm going to turn around here. And also you'll be able to get what it looks like from the back by how I look when I pivot. So you do want to actually get some hip rotation involved in this movement in particular. So hands are set up the same, feet are set up the same. Drop down a little bit, elbows in, drive that stick into the wall. You should be feeling a better connection to your left oblique. Good, ease off. Excellent. Now we're going to add in the rotation. Also remember, don't lean into it. We're not leaning into it. We're pushing with the arms to create that tension. So from here, elbows in, drive the stick into the wall, pushing with both hands, pivot that outer foot, hold, 3, 2, 1. Bring the foot back down and ease off. Whew. Let's go one more time here, folks. All right, elbows in, drop down, drive the stick into the wall, pivot that outer foot, rotate, 3, 2, 1. Place that foot back down and ease off. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Good. All right, so now let's get into the cool downs. So the deep fascial stretching. So here, we're going to start off at the shoulders first. We did do some upper back work, so let's loosen up those shoulders. We're going to keep the short stick. You can switch over to the long stick if you like for these dislocates. We are going to try to go through full range, all right? So this is a 5-foot stick. So for me, I'm going to start with my hands out at the ends here. This is just to allow the shoulders to kind of get a little more used to the range of motion. So feet are facing forward. Now gripping the stick out. I want to have my arms straight. What I'm going to do from here, lightly pull the stick apart, and then I'm going to bring the stick up and over, squeeze those glutes, keep them tight. Good, all the way back if possible. Keep pulling the stick apart, then come up and over. Excellent. Keep pulling the stick apart, keep that tension. Let's go up and over again. Breathe. Keep those glutes tight so we're not moving through the low back. And ease off. I'm going to turn to the side here. I'm going to also bring my hands in a little bit closer. So feet are still facing forward. Squeeze those glutes. Pull the stick apart. Bring it up. And over. Good. Back up. Good. Now we're going to move the hands in a little bit more if possible. Last one. And don't worry about it if you can't move your hands in. Always work with your mobility, all right? Pull the stick apart. Glutes tight. Come back up and over. Good. And ease off. Excellent. All right, so now we're going to get into some kayaking. Now, typically use this as a warm up, but we're going to use this as a cool down. We're going to stop at certain ranges of motion and create some push-pull tension here. All right. So I still have the short stick. You can go with the long stick if you like, if that's more comfortable for you. But I'm going to grip at the ends of the short stick here. And so I'm going to have a horse stance again. Make sure I'm dropped down. Everything's nice and tall. I'm going to start with my right hand up, and I'm going to start to kayak. So here we're just loosening up the shoulder blades, getting the tissues to stretch out a little bit. Don't want any rotation of the spine, just want movement of the shoulders and the scapula. Good. Good, keep it going. Now let's go backwards. Good. Almost like you're trying to scoop something up. Throw it over your head. Excellent. Now we're going to go forward again. This time we're going to add in a push-pull. So let's go forward. Hold the range here. Let's go ahead and pull the stick apart. You're going to feel that upper back get a little active here. Only about 20%. Now you're going to compress the stick. Feel those anterior tissues get active. Ease off that tension. Come up. Other side. Pull the stick apart. 20% tension. Now compress. Excellent. Ease off that tension. Let's work through that range. Good. Keep those shoulder blades moving. Here, pull the stick apart. Compress. Ease off that tension. Excellent. Pause here. Pull the stick apart. Good. Compress. And ease off. Swim through a little bit more. And good. Showing a little extra love to the shoulders here today. All right. I'm going to place the short stick down. I'm going to go back to the long stick. It's been a while. So we're going to now get into the slap shot. So with this in particular, we are going to be doing a push-pull. So when I call push is when to compress that stick, pull, we're going to pull the stick apart, but we're going to do it at different ranges. So I'm going to have a wide stance, and I actually want to have my feet pointed forward if possible. So if you need to go with a slight toe out angle, that's totally fine, but I want to actually get the feet pointed forward as much as possible. And you can always change your stance as we go along here. So from here, having a stick at mid-back, I'm going to hinge back, keeping my knees soft. Good. Let's just hold this here. Feel the hamstring stretch out a bit. Good. I'm going to rotate the right end of the stick down to my center line. Place the stick down. Now what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to lunge to my right. I'm going to lunge to my right, driving my hips back. And now I want to pull the stick apart. Good. Keep pulling the stick apart. Lunge over to your left. Now compress the stick. Good. Lunge over to the right, pull the stick apart. Good. Lunge over to the left and compress the stick. Back to center. Ease off that tension. Rotate back to neutral. Now we're going to go the opposite side. Rotate the left end down. Place it at your center line if you can. Lunge over to the left. Pull apart. Might be getting some adjustments like I am today, right now. Lunge over to the right. Compress the stick. Good. Lunge over to the left. Pull the stick apart. Good. Lunge over to the right. Compress the stick. Back to center. Rotate back to neutral. Now we're going to do something a little different. Let's get that right end of the stick across the center line if possible. I'm going to lunge over to my right. Now I'm going to reach across with the right hand. So now I'm going to get more rotation. Come back to center. Keep reaching. Lunge to the right again. Good. Back to center. Lunge to the right one more time. Excellent. Back to center. Place the right hand back on the stick. Rotate back to neutral. Same thing on the left side. Rotate the left end down. Good. Lunge to the left, reach across with the left hand. Back up. Breathe. Deep breath in. Exhale, lunge to the left. Reach. Back to center. One more time. Lunge to the left. Good. Back to center. Place the hand on. Back to neutral. Stand up. Wiggle those feet in. So now we're going to get into stretching out the hips a little bit. We're going to do this from a standing position. How's it going? So what I'm going to do here, we're going to get into stretching out the hip flexors first. But like I said, we're going to do it from a standing. So we need to make sure that we have a pretty big split in the hips here. So I'm going to start with my right foot forward, left foot back. Now I'm going to have the stick in line with the arch of my foot, or my right foot, and I want to have my hands roughly about chest height still. So I'm going to shift my weight forward here, at least just a little bit. I'm going to ball and toes of the back foot. Now what we're going to do is we're going to tuck the pelvis, squeeze that left glute, drive the stick into the ground, hold for 8 seconds. You should be feeling a stretch in the front of that left hip. Good, ease off. All right, let's go again. Drive the stick down, tuck the pelvis, squeeze the left glute. And it's okay for you to straighten out that back leg here. Good, ease off. Let's go one more time. Drive the stick down, tuck the pelvis, squeeze out left glute. Stay up nice and tall. 3, 2, 1. Let's go ahead and ease off, and let's switch sides here. So I'll actually turn forward. So I'm going to switch my hands. Sticks line up the same way. So load that front leg here. Drive the stick down. Tuck the pelvis. Squeeze the right glute. One side's probably going to feel tighter than the other. Good. Slowly ease off. Excellent. Let's go 2 more here. Drive the stick down. Tuck the pelvis. Squeeze the right glute. Is a really good way to actively focus on not only splitting the hips, but stretching out those hip flexors. And ease off, especially for people who aren't comfortable for getting on the ground here. All right, one more time. Drive the stick down, tuck the pelvis, squeeze the right glute. Breathe. 3, 2, 1, and ease off. Good. And let's finish off with a quick little bow and arrow. It's one of my favorite stretches. So let's go with the feet roughly about hip width apart. Toes are pointed forward. Stick is on the outside of my left foot here. So I'm going to start with the stick out about a foot away from my from the edge of my foot, and then I'm going to move it in to get more tension. So from here, right hand comes up over the top, thumb face down towards the floor. The left hand is right about where the waist to rib cage height. So I want to drive the hips away first, drive the stick into the floor, and then I'm going to extend both hands out. Breathe. I'm going to ease off, nice and slow. Now I'm going to move the bottom of the stick in closer to my foot, rotate that stick a bit. Same thing, drive the hips away first, drive the stick into the floor, now extend those hands out. Good, slowly ease off. Excellent, let's switch sides. Same progressions. Left hand comes up over the top, thumb facing down towards the floor. Drive the hips away first, drive the stick into the floor, then extend. Bring it in, nice and slow. Good. Bring the bottom of the stick in closer to your right foot. Rotate that stick a bit. Right. Drive the hips away. Drive the stick into the floor. And extend those hands out. 3, 2, 1. Back in nice and slow. Ease off. Excellent. That, my friends, concludes today's stick mobility class. Thank you for joining me, everybody. Hope everybody had a good class. Be sure to check out our YouTube. We got more content. And I will catch y'all next Saturday. Have a good one and stay safe.